here. It's almost here. We're halfway done with the semester. Hopefully things are going well. If something's going up in your classes, make sure you check in with your honors advisor because he or she may be able to help you through this process. But I'll come back with more announcements at the very end. Right now, I want to turn over the floor to Dr. Steve Mills. He is the Associate Director for the Center for Leadership and Social Change. And I already know his presentation. It's going to be fantastic. So everyone, let's welcome Steve.
It's good to be here. I always enjoy talking to this group. I'm going to try to make this interactive, but I know this is kind of a weird space. Can you guys hear me okay up there? Good. So I am the Associate Director at the Center for Leadership and Social Change. How many people have been by the center, know the center at all? Okay, good. Well, part of what I hope that will happen in this conversation is you'll learn a little bit more, maybe be intrigued and want to come by. We do great walk-in at our center. I am the community engagement guy there, which means that if you leave campus and you go outside of these walls to do anything meaningful, my staff has either usually created it or supported it, or we want to know about it. So we're all about you having experiences that are sort of life-changing outside the ivory tower. So, quick thing about me, I am from Manatee County, Florida. Anybody here from Manatee County? Make some noise if you're from Manatee County. Manatee County being all shy. Huh? Sarasota, okay, close enough. So, Bradenton, all right. Bradenton. Any Ellington? That's deep Manatee County right there. All right, really? All right, very good. So I'll tell you a quick story about Manatee County. What did I hear?
About the outlet mall. What you need to know about?
You got to know about the Ellington Outlet Mall. That's our claim to fame. But quick story about Manatee County. Well, first of all, it's like a lot of counties in Florida. You've got sort of tomatoes or some kind of agriculture inland, and you've got beautiful beaches. On the coast, we have the most beautiful Anna Maria Island and Longboat Key are just, I would defy anyone to find better beaches than that, although I'm sure many of you could. But I was with a group of students. We were going to Dothan, Alabama on a service trip, and it just happened out of the 5 students, 3 of them were from Manatee County. And so this is, Manatee County people sort of listen up because there's going to be a quiz for you here. So we were talking about growing up in Manatee County, but I grew up in Manatee County a long time ago, right? And so we kept not connecting. I'd say, what about this? And they'd be like, what? And they were talking about Lakewood Ranch and places that weren't even thought of when I was there. And then we discovered one thing that we both had in common as children: the magical animal of Manatee County. It was alive when I was a child, and is alive now. What animal would that be? Snooty the sea cow. So around the time that I was born in Manatee County, they found a sea cow, just a little baby, sea calf, I guess, put it in a pool, and they've been feeding that thing like a ton of lettuce every day for the last 50-some years. And they have proven that this particular organism has the worst breath of any organism in the entire world. I mean, it is really it was sort of the magical animal, sort of unicorn of my youth and unicorn of yours. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about 3 main things. We're going to talk about meaning, we're going to talk about service, we're going to talk about happiness and how those go together. I'm going to use some research that is basically looking specifically at what makes people happy in your age range. There's a ton of research on happiness in the last 15 years, and I figured if I were going to talk to you, I'd try to tell you something that might be useful for decisions that you have to make going forward. But before we get started, just to sort of go for the biggest meaning possible, let's talk about what the purpose of college is. So what would be what you would say the overall purpose of you being here? What is it? And here's some suggestions. Let's just start with these. Anybody who sort of relates most to college as a pre-professional place? It's a place where you figure out which profession or your job. Okay? This would be the current Republican administration is really big on that. The college is practical. It's not about navel gazing. It's about figuring out where you're going to work and getting the training to do that. All right. How about it's sort of what you're supposed to do. I mean, you're just sort of on the treadmill. This is what everyone expected you to do it. You weren't especially wanting to, but you thought, well, I'll do it. It can't hurt. Anybody have that? Anybody admit that? Okay. Okay. All right. One brave soul. And how about find yourself? You don't really have a pre-professional idea of college. You don't want to find yourself. Can you say more about that? Red shirt right here, right behind you. Yeah, like when you say find yourself, like what are you thinking of? Okay, so you just want to grow as a person, see what you're about, see what your limits are. Okay. So how many people, honestly, you just thought, well, this will be nothing else for your party? I'll have as much fun as possible. Okay. All right. Very good. Very good. And then, what do you suppose I mean up there by save the democracy? What would you suppose that means? Save the democracy. Yeah.
You have to be educated in order to be able to impact on the United States as well as the rest of the world. It helps if you're educated on a higher education level.
Right. I mean, we've got a ton of problems, right? We've got serious. We got gun violence, poverty, homelessness. We are a country that has sort of outstripped its reputation. And so the idea that you go to college, you have a chance to sort of learn sort of the best options for, in some ways, saving us and moving us back to our potential. So it's interesting to know that the research on happiness says that C, D, and E, C, D, and E are sort of the three elements that come together to create happiness. And we're going to talk about that now. So this is Canopy Road. Tallahassee, for those of you who don't know, is sort of mainly known for its canopy roads. Every county is known for something, and there's about 20 canopy roads. How's that better?
People hear them?
Beautiful. So this is, I'm imagining sort of a freshman coming into town. This is St. Augustine Road. The whole future is in front of you here, trying to figure out, who you're going to be, what you're going to do, what you're going to be known for. A lot of people come to FSU from South Florida because it's close enough to get in-state tuition, but it's far enough that people aren't going to visit you. There is a chance to be a brand new person, right? There's a chance to be somebody to sort of reinvent yourself at college. Most of the choices that you're going to make are going to be based on what you think is going to make you the happiest, right? And that's human nature. We're horrible at figuring out what's going to make us happy, but we still try. We make a lot of our decisions based on what's going to make us happy. The research tells us pretty clearly what we can do about our happiness. The fact is, happiness is way more genetic than we ever thought. The research on identical twins raised apart has enabled us to sort of tease nature from nurture. And about half of what determines your happiness, what they call the happiness set point, is your genetics. Some people are just naturally rosier and happier, have higher spirits than others. But there are some things you can do to sort of change your set point. Here's what they are. So one of the first things that happiness researchers had to figure out is what is happiness, what makes happiness, how to define it. There's a great study, and they did several of these kinds of studies where they would give a bunch of people beepers, and they would say the beepers would go off at certain times of the day. When the beeper goes off, you have to take out a pad, and then you have to write down what you were doing, and then rate your happiness from 1 to 10, right? And then collect this data at the end of a week and see what made people happy according to these journals. The catch is they asked the same people, what is it that makes you happy? And so people would say, the top of a parent's list is spending time with my children. A lot of parents would put spending time with their children at the top of the list. But when they looked at their journal, spending time with their children wasn't anywhere near the top of the list. The top two things were having sex, and the second thing is talking to their friends, right? Spending time with children was kind of far down the list. But it's true, right? It was true. Spending time with their children really make them happy, and so scientists started talking about the remembering self and the experiencing self. They started looking at the complexity of happiness, what it means, and they came up with these three things. When we talk about happiness, we sort of talk about our ability to make inroads in these three areas. Pleasure, just pure hedonism. I mean, our ability to just feel and express ourselves and feel pleasure in whatever way are sort of what you have to pay attention to if you're going through the happiest life possible. Some of these things are more important at certain ages, and some are more important at other ages. So let's talk about these in turn. So pleasure. Pleasure is actually a more important one. I think we kind of blow that one off. It is the one that the research says that you're the most interested in of the three. And really, sort of one of the jobs of being in college, now that you're here, you're not being monitored closely. So your job is to figure out how to sort of negotiate pleasure in your life in a way that you can still function effectively, right? So you learn how to manage a hangover. Or if you're not a partier and you're, say, a reader, you learn how to not read until 3 in the morning every morning so that you're... So it's the most immediate obvious, so it's immediate. You do it, you get happy. No brain surgery there, okay? Yeah? Less noticeable consequences. Say more about that.
Like, if you like do more in your 30s or 40s,
Right.
and you go out and you do something stupid, and that could get you fired, or that could get you, in trouble with the law or something like that. Whereas we're probably not going to get fired or get arrested or something like that for doing something.
So basically, you got more slack. You can screw up and people aren't going to throw the book at you. Although I think that certain people can screw up easier than others, not have the book thrown at them, but that's another topic. Anything else? Any other reason that you think pleasure is sort of you guys' primary interest on happiness? Any other idea? Yeah. Okay. So in other words, college is sort of beating you down, and pleasure sort of gives you a chance to escape that, sort of get through that. Okay? Which is true. I mean, undergraduate especially. This is the only time in your academic career that people are sort of gunning for you. So in undergraduate, you're sort of being weeded out. If you go to grad school, which most of you will, and I hope you will, that doesn't really happen. If you're accepted into graduate school, there's this idea that you're worthy of being with us, and we want to keep you here. But as an undergraduate, this is not really maybe the way to put it, but they're kind of gunning for you, right? I mean, you're being eliminated. You have sometimes large and personal classes. So there's a lot of stress. Yeah. Yes. Yes. So we're sort of functioning more on the reptilian brain. Exactly. Last up here, yeah. Yeah, sort of the one last party idea that you get all the time, especially when people are about to graduate. You've got this one sort of shining chance to be irresponsible and fun. Okay, that's a great list of reasons. So engagement, the trick to engagement is finding something that you're suited to, sort of have some natural aptitude for, but that also challenges you enough that keeps you interested. When you find that exact balance, and you see here, someone's creative writing, someone's found just the right game to play, someone's working on a model, Jimi Hendrix on guitar. Folks are right at that edge, right at that balance point where their interest meets their aptitude. And when that happens, and when you find that, and some people actually are lucky enough to find that in their work, there's a state that's called flow. And flow is a state, anyone heard of that? State of flow? Flow is a state where time sort of stands still, the world drops away, sort of the opposite of stress, even when you're doing something that is work or stressful. Okay, so who has something that they found that brings them this state of flow? Engagement, yeah.
I'm a studio art major, so when I'm working on my art, I'm flow.
Okay, so when you're working on your art, you're there.
Yeah.
And does it matter if you're working on something that's more or less difficult, or?
I think more challenging the more that I'm into it.
Okay, perfect. Anything else? Yeah.
I'm a STEM major, so I'm kind of focusing in bio right now. But whenever we do any kind of writing related to science, it just kind of combines the writing aspect I was growing up and the creativity in that, and then also learning science, which is
So writing specifically related to science gets you there. That's super interesting. That's perfect for probably to find a career that you'll be able to follow that in. So then finally is meaning, and meaning is just sort of finding the piece of the puzzle that you fill, right? The way that you have to uniquely serve your world. And a lot of you have sort of gotten a head start in meaning and sort of looking at how you might serve the world because you all have done a lot of service for Bright Futures, right? So I'm going to guess that most everybody in here has at least gone after, if you're an in-state student, you've at least gone after the 100 hours of service necessary to have Bright Futures and basically have college paid for. So why don't we do this? If you have done any service whatsoever in high school, stand up. Any service whatsoever. Okay. All right, so if you started toward the 75 or 100 hours necessary for Bright Futures, let's say if you start toward the 100 and you fell short of the 100 for whatever reason, please sit down. So in other words, you serve. If you're out of state, if you serve less than 100 hours, you sit down. Okay. You still up? All right. Where's someone who sat down? Did you sit down? What happened? You just didn't do it? Okay. I've already heard. I've heard one tale. Someone started and just didn't quite get the hours in time. They started a little bit late. But look, the majority of you made at least 100 hours. If you got the 100 and then you stopped within 50, so maybe if you stopped before you got 150, then please sit down. Okay. So I'm guessing that the folks that just sat down were going for the goal. It was practical. You met it, and then you were done. Does that fit? Did anybody have a story that doesn't fit? Okay. All right. So everyone who's standing up that still has done more than 150 hours of service, what did you do up here in the shirt, the gray shirt? Yeah. Okay, I worked in your church, like youth group kind of stuff. Okay, and then above you, yeah.
I worked as involved in that project doing like wheelchairs basically for people who can't walk.
Wow, like manufacturing? Yeah. Okay, all right. So so some of you went on even beyond that and have worked up to 500 hours, right? Have served up to 500 hours. So if you have served less than 500 hours, have a seat. Uh-oh, I cleared the deck. What did you say? You're right at 500? All right. So most of the folks that have left have probably discovered some meaning in service and probably have a sense of what they have to offer, at least in one area. John Wilcox, are you standing or are you?
Oh, I'm standing.
All right, tell us.
Oh,
Yeah.
So I was super involved within a hospital that was in my hometown. So I worked in unit care and like
population? Okay. Okay. All right. What about you?
I worked a lot of hours serving people, like doing blood pressure checks and just sticking IVs in people, and they're just fun actually. And, a lot of medicine-based stuff. That's my career.
Okay, so all medical stuff. Well, you were lucky to get that in high school. That's cool. All right. Anybody in this room, if you didn't serve 1,000 hours, sit down. Anybody that served 1,000 or more remain seated. Long sweater, what did you do? Let's listen. Okay. Directed children's plays for a nonprofit? Wow, you must have started when you were a freshman, right? Okay. Did you direct at the beginning too? Okay. What about you?
I work with special needs kids playing top soccer, which is like a special needs soccer organization, and then equestrian studies, of course, it's like physical therapy.
And did you start again as a freshman or before?
Yeah.
Okay. What about you?
I taught kids in my school year round. I worked consistently at a disability advocacy group nonprofit. I wrote a book and donated to medical crossroads with a kids picture book. And that was all my time.
Wow, that's 1,000 hours worth for sure. How about you two?
I shared a Relive for Life that was one of the top fundraising Relive for Life in the state of Florida.
Okay.
I coached swimming for 4 years. I did a lot of mission trips with my church, 6 mission trips. I volunteered in the hospital like John up there. I did a lot of little things.
Okay. So you put a lot of different things together, huh? Okay. All right, we got time for one more. Tell us what you did.
I worked in my library for 2 years, hospital for 4. I helped organize a marathon for Amelia Run for Elite.
All right, so really quick, I want to get to the next one because we're going to do this really quick, just trying to get a sense of motivation. I have a sense that a person's motivation to do hours in high school determines the likelihood that they're going to continue to do service in college, right? So these are, that's just, I don't know any research on it, just an idea that I have. So A, sort of, your motivation is to get those hours. That's often, I know some people had 100-hour service that was meaningful to them, but the idea was you were going to get the hours, get the right people. Your parents would kill you if you didn't. So the hours are good. Like I like the hours, but you get 50 or 60 hours into it, you realize the cause is good. You learn to appreciate the cause. C, I have a sense that people that have that C as the motivation often do their service in college, and that is, I know that pain and trouble. I have had the issue that I am helping to relieve in the world. Often we've done a lot. There's been a lot of research done recently on the rich and how the rich give less than the poor in terms of percentage of their income. And this research has shown that sort of wealth itself kind of quiets the empathy pathways in the brain. And so to get rich to give more, often we'll do campaigns that will sort of incite or open up sort of that empathy pathway through film, speeches, that kind of thing. So the idea that sort of the inverse of that is that people who've had pain often have a tremendous amount of empathy for that particular issue, and in some ways heal themselves as they serve in that area. In spiritual faith, there are a lot of people that believe very seriously what their holy text says about service, and most holy texts say a lot about service, particularly those less fortunate than you. And then any other reason, any other motivation that people might think of why you serve? Does that cover it? Yeah.
Just about something that you love to do. And maybe it's like, maybe if you dance and you're volunteer dance camp.
Okay, so you service is sort of an excuse to do more of what you already love to do?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, all right. So to some extent, that's not I know that pain, that's sort of I know that joy. All right, good. Yeah.
I did it because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I volunteered various things like hospitals and like stuff like that because I wanted to figure out what I wanted to do.
Wow. So you're exploratory. You just wanted to get out there and figure yourself out. That's a good one. I'll put that one on there. Yeah.
Sometimes for practice.
Just practice. You need to stick people. Nails, basically. All right. Okay, this is the one that I want you to discuss together. You guys are in sort of groups, right? So you guys have sort of in teams here. So I want you to sort of pick a partner and just really quickly, just about 3 minutes, you just decide the personal outcome of the service. Of these, or is there something else? What would you say was the personal outcome of the time that you spent in service? So pick somebody that you're sitting next to and just discuss. I'm going to give you 3 minutes to come up with sort of, get in touch with the personal outcome. None of those are important. Go. Man, that's great energy. That's good energy. So, compassion, respect for others. How many people will sort of pick that one or chose that one? Okay. So let's not do it this way. Let's just hear. Let's just hear some things you got. You can use these or not. I am interested at some point to hear about disillusionment. If anyone found disillusionment, but before that, what else? What else did you? Meaning, what was the outcome for you, John? Outcome. Yeah. Started hanging out with what? With good people. You weren't hanging out with that good people before? Okay, all right. Okay, so that's exposure to new realities or ideas or maybe people. All right? Yeah. What else, Minnie? Yeah.
I tutor in Quincy with kids that have a little performance test. And so when me and a bunch of volunteers decided to go there, we thought they were just like not very smart, need motivation, like we realized they just like have a really tough time with life. They're genuine people that are really awesome kids that just need some love and affection. So definitely maybe exposure to your realities if you're not with off, but definitely like gain a lot of respect and compassion.
Sounds like you also sort of learned to challenge your own stereotypes, ideas that you had. Okay? Yeah, what else? Other outcome, yeah.
What about theater majors? Every found major in interest. I did the Spartan Associations at Children's Hospital. I found the organization like Got Us Swiss Princesses for little kids to get there. And she did theater with little children and like work with them. So when you find your major interest now, we're both doing it as like a living choice.
Yeah, it sort of launched you in some way. Yeah. Okay. Other outcomes. I mean, this is the whole experiment, right? You're supposed to do this service. You've been manipulated basically into doing service so that you get the money, and you all did it. Some of you did a lot more, so there should be outcomes. There should be, this is sort of the answer to why you're supposed to do this. So what are some other things? Some other outcomes? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I guess it's kind of a mix of the compassion, respect, and the exposure to new ideas. I worked performing for a kind of like children's camp or whatever. I would be people really dressed out in various costumes for like 3 years. And the skits would interact with the children, and it was so sweet.
You're sort of having to decide, is this an illusion that I can create? Can I go back in and do nonprofit differently? Can I sustain passion for kids in a situation like Boys and Girls Club? And that's really sort of the whole, it's a beautiful experience to have right before you come to college, and you have the opportunity to sort of explore whether this is an illusion, this idea that you have, this standard that you have, or whether it's something that you can help create. And every generation sort of turns what has been sort of an illusion into a reality. I know that that's something that your generation is kind of known for, sort of holding on to ideals to sort of the bitter end. So, meaning. So the research shows that for your age group, sort of meaning and sort of finding this piece of the puzzle that you feel is the least important thing to you. And I've had people at this colloquium say, well, it is the least important thing. I don't even really want to talk about it. I'm just trying to figure out who I am. I'm just trying to figure out how to get to class. I'm trying to figure out how to, keep a decent GPA. I don't really want to think about that right now. So it makes sense that it's not important to me. It shouldn't be important to me. So I would just give the question to this group. Is this idea of figuring out how you are specifically tuned or able to serve your world, is it a concern of yours? Is it something that you should spend your college years on? Yeah.
I think it's definitely really important. The problem is that, like, the reason people don't think it is as important is because our society is, like, primarily, like, focused on, like, getting a job, making money, and becoming successful on those terms. So a lot of people forget to focus on, like, the fact that to be successful, like, it means, like, more than just, like, making money and, like, having a big house and a car. Like,
Okay.
there's much more to life that is, like, obscured by, like, our society.
So you're saying that the older you get, like going to college, the narrative is so strong that it's about money and it's about sort of sustaining yourself and making a living, that it doesn't give a lot of room for meaning?
I mean, I'm saying, like, the people that you were just talking about that you, like, said, oh, like, this doesn't matter, they're, like, obscured by these ideas.
Okay. Yeah.
I would argue that meaning is the most important, because if you don't know what you're doing here, why are you here? It's my kind of thing.
You would say that meaning is the most important because why would you be here if you didn't have a sense?
If you didn't have a sense of what you wanted to do in life, you're either here to find it or you're here to pursue it. So if you don't have a meaning by the end, then I think the whole thing was for naught.
Any other thoughts on this? Any other thoughts on sort of looking for meaning at this time, at this stage in your life?
I mean, one thing that I really wanted to make clear just from being in college for a couple more years is that I think honor students from the structure that they were in high school to now have always been told what their meaning is success, whether it be by GPA or financially. And so find your meaning in the things that you find happiness in. Because if you're only focusing on those quantitative ways of how you're a good person, then you're not going to be able to, like, get beyond those barriers for it.
Okay. So you brought up that you're honor students. Do you think there's any, I don't know, special pressure on honor students to concentrate on meaning? Who thinks you have a responsibility as an honor student to concentrate on meaning? Okay. And why? Why would you say that? Either of you. Yeah.
I don't think it's explicitly stated, but I think it's very strongly in the grain of life. The honor student, the fact that you earn your place, kind of like, if you earn your place.
Is a reputation you have to grow into as an honor student?
Yes.
All right. Anything else? Connection between being an honor student and meaning? Yeah. Okay. So we just got a couple things left, and I want to sort of make a distinction between personal meaning and then sort of community meaning, right? So for a lot of you, discerning is being uniquely sort of uniquely skilled, uniquely talented at providing something with your best friends, with maybe scholars that you're with, maybe with your team. You're sort of finding out what you have to give to those folks. Some of you are encouragers, some of you are organizers, some of you are challengers. You're sort of figuring out what those roles are. And there's several of you, like for instance, you have sort of discovered your meaning and you're pursuing it, and it's medical, and you'll have patients, so you'll have those sort of that context to express yourself in. But beyond sort of the personal, there is what I would consider our collective issues. And so that has to do really with the time that we're in right now in this country. And you guys are what an interesting time to be a freshman in college with this particular election cycle that's coming up. I've never seen anything like this before. Whatever you think about Donald Trump, the fact that he's as popular as he is has a lot of meaning to everybody in this nation, right? And for a lot of people, it means that people in this nation are seriously disillusioned, right? We have lots of reasons to be. There's many things that I could talk to you about right now, lots of things that we concentrate at the center. The one thing that I'm thinking about the most right now is poverty. So at the end of 2013, there were about 318 million Americans. 45 million Americans lived in poverty. 45 million. That's about 10% of the white population, which is 20 million people living in poverty. 27% of the black population, which is about 11 million people. And it's 24% of the Latino population, which is 14 million people. All of those people in poverty. Bad enough. So if you're in poverty, you're below the poverty line. That would be, you live below the poverty line, just to give you a sense. That's one person making about, if you're working full-time, minimum wage, you make about $16,000 a year. So the poverty line for one person is $11,000. I think for two, it goes up to 18. It tops out at 23 for a family of four. So a family of four lives on $23,000 in America. That's poverty, right? Worse than that is that 20 million of the 45 million people in poverty in this country are in what we call deep poverty. That's less than half. They live on less than half of the poverty line. 20 million people, right? We have 15 million children on the poverty line, 1 in 5. For the first time in the year 2013, get this, I had to Google this. I could not believe this is true. In 2013, we crossed the halfway point. Public school children in America, where more than half are on free or reduced lunch. Over half of the public school children in our nation are in poverty. So we have the kinds of problems that are, I mean, sure, they plague America, they plague the world. For as long as we've had civilization, we've had poverty, but we have some egregious poverty in a nation that is so resource rich, it's crazy. I'm going to show just a quick video. And we're going to finish up with that, then I'm going to tell you a little bit about the center.